Hello everyone, it's Mary. I really hate to film with a crowded background, but I still haven't figured out how the lighting works in this house. We have a skylight just above my face, and I usually film in that part of the bookshelves, which I'm going to briefly show you. See, that's the part of the bookshelves that I usually film in front of, but it doesn't seem to have that much light, so this was a bad idea. I've been trying to film this video for the whole afternoon, so yeah, let's just see the books that I read in the month of April. April was a really good reading month for me. I read 6 books and I'm currently reading another one, so I think it's pretty good considering, you know, how the past months have been going on. And I will try and go in the order in which I read them. So the first one would be The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I really need to remember that it is not William Golding. My mind keeps wanting me to say William Golding. He's the man. Goldman. I will do a separate video review for this one because I feel like I have quite a lot of things to say about this one, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was written in the 70s and I believe it is considered a classic, and it's a very funny book. It's supposed to be kind of a parody of all the kind of adventures that involve, you know, castles and princesses and princes and all of the sort. And actually this is a book within a book because the author himself is kind of a character that talks about his childhood and how he came to know this book, The Princess Bride, which was supposedly written by, as it says here, Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure, the good parts version, abridged, I don't know how to pronounce that one, by William Goldman. I will do a video review, so you can look forward to that if you're interested. Then I believe I read Pereira Montes. This is a novel by Antonio Tabucchi. He is an Italian author, and it has been a while since I read an Italian author, so it was very refreshing in a way to me, even though this book is set in Portugal. This is set in 1938, and actually in Portugal quite a lot of things were happening in that period, so I really didn't know much about Portugal in that period, so I felt like this one was very well written in that sense. Pereira is a journalist, and he is a middle-aged man who really doesn't feel like being involved in political matters. He's really concerned about the art and about writing in general and just doing his daily job without really asking too much questions. But he kind of slips naturally into political events of the city, even though he still claims that he doesn't want anything to do with that. And I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I liked how it was structured as if it was an interview, repeating all the time, Pereira maintains that, and blah blah blah, then it tells the story. And I think it's also very powerful because it talks about how really every one of us is kind of responsible for what is happening, and if we can do something in our power to express you know, our own feelings, then we have to do that. And it is really a claim to the freedom of expressing yourself, especially when the press is involved. And yeah, I really recommend reading this one if you want to read some Italian fiction. Then I reread YA books. I had these on my shelves but really didn't remember anything about it, and I really want to keep only the books that I really enjoy, so I reread this one, The Canning Season by Polly Horvath. I mean, I remember that I did not remember the story, but I did remember feeling a bit about the whole thing, and yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I don't think it's a book that I would recommend or that I would ever reread, so I'm probably going to get rid of this one. But it is about this girl. She's called Wretched, which is a very unusual name. She is in her teens. I think she's 13. From the very beginning, you feel that her mother is not that she doesn't really care about her, but you feel like she's not very affectionate towards her. And Wretched is to spend the summer with her two great aunts called Tilly and Pan Pan. They are twins and spinsters, and they're very old and live in a, you know, in a very small village in Maine. They're kind of peculiar women that have all sort of weird and kind of slightly dark stories to tell about their childhood. And I really didn't like this one a lot, especially because I was a little bit annoyed with the main character. She really doesn't have any personality whatsoever, and she is very quiet and shy, but you really don't get to see anything from her perspective, I think, and there is no development in her. I still thought it was quite engaging, so that's why I gave it 3 stars and not 2. I definitely wouldn't recommend this one. The next book that I read was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars because it actually took me quite a while to get into the story and just lacked something for me to just, you know, take that last star. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with what this book is about. A young girl named Scout who lives in a southern town in the US. It is a coming-of-age story, and it talks about so many themes because it talks about justice and about, you know, growing up and understanding what is right and what is wrong and how to behave in that respect. And I just think this was brilliantly done. I really liked the arc of Scout and how she slowly begins to understand what's really going on in, you know, the world around her, and how she can form her own opinion in the right way. So it's mainly about her and her brother, and of course their father, who's called Atticus. And actually I want to mention something because I just only realized that the brand of clothing, which is called Atticus and has like a dead bird on the logo, I never connected that one to the book, but actually it makes so much sense. Yeah, just a little thing that really made me smile. Of course, I highly recommend this one. I then reread The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This is a short story, and it was written in the 19th century. I had already read this short story when I was at university for my American literature class and really enjoyed it. We went very in-depth in the analysis of this short story, so I remember being absolutely hooked to this kind of, not really the story itself because it happens inside her mind, the main character's mind, and she is quite a mirror of the author herself that suffered from postnatal depression when her child was born. And this character, she is going through a similar situation. She is forced to, but not exactly forced, but like strongly advised to stay in her room because of this kind of depression. The doctor and her husband both tell her that the best thing to do for her is just rest and do not write. Basically don't do anything at all but stay in that room. And she actually slowly goes a little bit insane in there, especially because of her condition, and starts to pay attention to the wallpaper that kind of makes weird patterns and stuff, and she kind of sees it moving. And I think the psychological aspect of the story is very interesting, especially considering the time period in which this one is set. I really enjoy the story. It is quite a strong little story with, you know, a feminist intention, which is very prominent. What I would suggest you to do is not read this one in one sitting, which would be, I know it sounds weird, being a short story, you would like, it probably takes you an hour to read it. The first time I read it, I remember, you know, reading it in quite some time, since we were like analyzing the story, and in this way it kind of built up in my mind a more scary prospect in me returning to that room with the main character. But you know, you can do as you please, of course. That's just my suggestion for this one story. And the last book that I finished, and I finished it last night, was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's the first book of the year which took away the 5-star rating for me, and I'm very happy for it to be Pride and Prejudice. I had never read any Austen before, and she is a genius. I was afraid that I was not going to love this one. I was kind of dreading picking this one up because I know that it's such a favorite, and everybody, or at least most people, seem to really love this one. And it being a classic, I really am quite wary to approach it, you know, with open mind, and just, you know, let myself not enjoy it, if that makes any sense. That didn't happen, and I was hooked from the first page. I thought it was going to be hard for me. It's been a while since I read a classic, and you know, it's not my native language, so I'm always a bit, ooh, what if I don't get all the things? But it was surprisingly very easy to get through, even though it's quite dialogue heavy, but I really enjoyed it. And it's just all the characters are very quirky and funny, and it is very ironic in a sort of a sly way sometimes. The main character, Elizabeth, I really enjoyed her way of thinking and her personality. And when that happens, I think the chances of you enjoying the book are even higher. I just really enjoyed this book, and I don't know what else to say. I really have to watch some adaptations. I know that there are several. I actually watched the 1940s adaptation yesterday as soon as I finished the book, because I was just in the mood for more Pride and Prejudice. And yeah, I'm going to watch all the adaptations and then do like a separate video, because I think it has to be fun to do. But yeah, I will tell you all my opinions there. I want to now just to briefly mention the book that I'm currently still reading, which is An Echo in the Bone by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 7th book in the Outlander series. I'm currently almost halfway through, and I dropped it because I really wanted to read some more before the end of the month. So I decided to divide the book in chunks. Since it's divided in several parts, I will read a part of the book and then go read another one. It's not that I'm not enjoying this one. I am pretty much enjoying this, but I just feel more accomplished if I finish some of the books that I plan to read. Thank you for watching, and please let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!